Federal government intensifies efforts to prevent spread of coronavirus in the country. National Assembly no longer covered by insurance as required by law. 2 billion naira owed in insurance premiums. On the international front, U.S. state of California declares a coronavirus state of emergency. And in sports, Africa's top-ranked table tennis star Aaron Okodri out on injury.
This is ANN News.
I'm Lucy Adeyemi. The federal government is beefing up efforts to prevent the spread of coronavirus in the country. Among measures being taken are increased screening at border entry points and a public awareness campaign on improved hygiene. Reporter Deji Badmos has the story.
It's business as usual in Lagos, just days after the government confirmed Nigeria's first case of the coronavirus. The government had called for calm and giving everyone the assurance it was on top of the situation. It appears that message has sunk in, as there's no air of panic in the city. But people are careful and quite aware about the basics of the virus.
The most important thing is, if you see anybody coughing and sneezing, preferably, ensure to either stay away or report to the authorities so that they could test the person and, if possible, quarantine the person. That's just the way I'm looking at this.
Some organizations are taking precautions. The local Catholic Church here has stopped a traditional handshaking during Mass and cut down on some church activities. Most offices now have hand sanitizers at their reception desk, and the authorities continue to provide frequent updates on the index case.
There is no new confirmed case in Nigeria. About 13 or 14 tests have been done, and except that one patient, no other person has been diagnosed. There were 156 passengers on the manifest of the flight that brought the index case. Port Health Services and NCDC have been supporting both Lagos and Ogun State governments to carry out contact tracing and other response activities. Currently, the contacts of the index case are identified as 19 contacts in Lagos, 39 contacts in Ogun State. We are in touch with these contacts who are under supervised self-isolation.
Among the challenges authorities are now having to confront is fake news and, of course, misinformation. And there have been a lot of them over the past few days.
We must be careful what we listen to and what we believe on social media. Let us stay focused on what the government is saying, on what Nigeria Center for Disease Control is saying, on what the federal government is saying, and let that be the information we should take seriously.
The government is now ramping up its enlightenment campaign about the coronavirus on various media platforms. Local TV and radio stations have gone heavy on it. The dosage of information coming out of the local media space is now massive. The government is hoping all of this would make the difference in the country's quest to ensure COVID-19 does not spread beyond the single imported index case it currently has.
The Kano government of Umar Ganduje has come up with another charge against the Emir of Kano, Malam Muhammad Sanusi II. Ganduje's government is accusing the Emir of a fresh 2 billion naira land scam. Emir Sanusi was ordered to appear today before the Kano State Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission to answer questions over the alleged fraud involving the management of land reserved as Gandu Sarki. The landed property is spread all over the state. The Commission's Director of Special Assignment, Usman Bello, says investigation was generated by submissions from whistleblowers. They claim the Emir had authorized illegal sales of some of the property using a company as a corporate vehicle to launder more than $500 million naira. A federal high court in Kano had quashed a report last month in which the commission indicted the Emir over a 3 billion naira fraud from the Emirate Council Fund. There are 2 pending cases before the Kano State High Court on the same issue. A group called the Governors Mandate Network has asked governors elected on the ruling party APC platform to immediately replace the party's national chairman, Adams Oshiomhole, who was suspended by Federal Capital Territory High Court on Wednesday. The group's chairman, Irel Osaro Onaiwu, said in Abuja on Wednesday, governors should quickly seize on the opening handed them by the court decision and, quote, salvage the party from impending ruin, end quote. Onaiwu said the court has given the governors a leeway to reorganize and refocus their party away from the alleged banditry Oshiomhole had promoted. The FCT High Court has ordered Oshiomhole to step down until the determination of the substantive suit that seeks his removal as APC chairman. The court order follows Oshiomhole's suspension as a member of the Esako Ward 10 APC in Edo State. It is stunning to learn that fixed asset and life policies of the National Assembly are no longer covered by insurance as a result of a 2.5 billion naira debt on insurance premiums. The law mandates that government assets, public officers and properties of government institutions must be covered by insurance, but National Assembly's insurance premiums have been cancelled because of the enormous insurance premium debt it owes on vehicles, fixed asset and life policy. This means the grant structure itself is not even currently insured against the incident, one of the mandatory requirements of the law. The senior official of the National Assembly said adequate budgetary allocations would have to be made to cover the insurance debt. This year's budget has a 37 billion naira allocation for the renovation of the building that houses the Senate and the House of Representatives. Coming up, African stories. South Africa in technical recession after GDP shrinks. And later, international news. U.S. state of California declares coronavirus emergency.
You are watching ANN.
Now to African stories. Economists are still chewing on South Africa's situation that has seen the country sinking into another recession in 2 years. This after the economy contracted for a second consecutive quarter between October and December last year. All major economic sectors recorded negative growth during this period. Reporter Sumitra Yinindo unpacks the figures for us.
The South African economy is in an even poorer state than previously thought. Many are not surprised that the economy is in recession, but they are shocked by the bigger than expected contraction in these latest GDP figures. The general consensus was for a 0.2% contraction in the fourth quarter of 2019.
The size of the impact was bigger than we had thought. And now looking into like 2020, expectations are for a sub 1% growth rate for 2020. Unfortunately, the way things are going, both with the coronavirus as well as the more than expected fall we saw in the end of 2019, it could be that we might even have difficulty maintaining a positive number for 2020 as well.
This means that the economy grew by a mere 0.2% in 2019. The Reserve Bank and the Treasury were expecting growth of at least 0.5%. 7 of the 10 main sectors of the economy contracted. Agriculture suffered the worst decline of 7.6% in the fourth quarter. Load shedding was the main contributing factor to declines in manufacturing, construction and retail.
The critical areas which we believed could drive this growth were transport, which went down tremendously, and construction, where non-skilled, labor-intensive workers do participate, has been declining in South Africa for 6 consecutive quarters, signifying to us that not only is South Africa in a deep economic crisis, but is going to see itself facing huge social problems because of the swelling number of the unemployed, particularly those that are low-skilled, that continue to lose opportunities in the retail as well as construction sectors.
The situation is unlikely to get better anytime soon. There's more load shedding on the cards at least for another year. The impact of the coronavirus is also being felt, and there's a critical ratings decision expected later this month.
South Africa will be junk status. There is no prospect for growth going forward. So really, for Moody's to come up with another excuse of allowing us to buy time when there's no concrete plan that's convincing, I think they'll be losing credibility.
In 2020, growth rates are currently forecast at 0.7%. Unfortunately, looking at what's happening with coronaviruses, I think that we'll have real difficulty trying to maintain even that 0.7% target for this year.
It's hoped government will come up with an urgent plan to arrest the decline. In the meantime, the Reserve Bank is being urged to cut rates aggressively to spur consumption.
Tunisian Prime Minister Ayes Fakhfakh has presented an economic forum agenda that is expected to rebuild the country's shaky economy. Fakhfakh has outlined an agenda to energize growth and alleviate poverty in the short term, while proposing bold reforms to integrate Tunisia into the global economy. Reporter Adnan Chawachi has the story.
The government's plan is based on large-scale projects that will be the core of a new social contract and will make of Tunisia a modern middle-income country with a high value-added economy. The first project of economic reform provides for investing in the digital revolution.
This national project will help usher Tunisia in the fourth industrial revolution. The digital revolution is a historic opportunity as it is based on human potential and does not require a lot of financial capital. Nearly 70% of all jobs in the future will be in the digital sector.
Energy transition is at the heart of the second project, as Tunisia is importing over 50% of its needs at a time when there are 300 annual days of sunshine.
There is need to tap into solar power to produce renewable energy as part of the strategy to achieve the hoped-for transition. Energy independence and security are among our top priorities.
The third project consists of working out a comprehensive strategy to gain access to markets in sub-Saharan Africa. Efforts will be made to urge Tunisian business operators to invest in these countries.
The new Premier's vision is to make Tunisia increasingly oriented towards Africa. He is intensifying efforts to step up and develop its trade with this continent, which has huge potential, and strengthen its African integration.
The government's fourth project consists of the reform of the agricultural and water sector. This project will take into consideration the social, economic, cultural, environmental and security aspects in the country.
Outgoing Premier Yusuf al-Shahid has handed over power to Ayes al-Fakhfakh and his government. Al-Fakhfakh declared during the official ceremony that a salvation and reform program was devised and that parties from across the political spectrum are fully aware of the critical situation.
IGAD member states in East Africa have invested $20 billion in regional infrastructure development to date. Before implementation of the master plan, the body has begun an assessment to ensure regional cooperation that would positively affect each member state. Isabel Nakaya has the story.
Trucks delivering goods across borders in East Africa, like this one between Uganda and South Sudan, often face hours of gridlock. This is costing businesses millions of dollars for the delays spent in transit. At times, perishables go bad along the way. IGAD member states want to see a smooth flow in movement of goods and people.
We are heading to add a lot of value to the African integration, the African free trade area, and we are wishing that our community in the IGAD region will benefit a lot from the integration efforts.
Some countries in the East African region have tried to relax trade barriers along borders. One-stop border points have been opened where traders pay taxes under one roof at the borders. This has made business much easier and faster for traders. This is the same system that IGAD states would like to replicate.
So a big part of what we are doing is to make sure that the developmental pathway and the role infrastructure plays in it leads to the SDGs and leads to this inclusive, climate-friendly, resilient growth that creates, through trade, peace and prosperity in the IGAD region.
IGAD countries are also identifying projects like power dams in the region that can be shared. Disputes over resources like the construction of the Grand Renaissance Dam that is causing a rift with countries that share the Nile waters will be addressed. Regional states are expected to commit to the funding of the projects. The master plan, once developed, will lead to more regional cooperation and strengthen ties between states. IGAD hopes trade and investment within the region will be boosted, leading to economic prosperity.
When we return, international news. U.S. state of California declares coronavirus emergency. And later, sports. Nigeria's African table tennis champion, Haruna Quadri, out on injury.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in stories across the globe. The U.S. military has conducted an airstrike against Taliban fighters in Afghanistan just hours after President Donald Trump said he had had a very good talk with a leader of the group. This comes days after the U.S. signed an agreement with the Taliban that was supposed to lead to the withdrawal of the foreign troops after 18 years. Jack Burton reports from Kabul.
The agreement signed in Doha between the U.S. and the Afghan Taliban paves the way for the United States to gradually extract itself from its longest war. In return for the withdrawal of all foreign troops within 14 months, the Taliban agreed to prevent groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIL from operating in the country. The very next day, the militant group announced attacks would resume on Afghan security forces. The statement provoked anger on the streets of Kabul.
The Taliban must make peace with the Afghan people. Why are they killing our youth? Why?
The United Nations says that more than 100,000 civilians have been killed in the crossfire since this conflict began. So it's people here who know they are most at risk if fighting again escalates between the Taliban and Afghan security forces.
I hope for a long-lasting peace in the country. I hope it won't be like the previous truce because I was shot at that time. Why don't the Taliban sit with Muslims, elders, and tell them that they want peace? We are the sons of this country. They are the sons of this country. They should explain their will, that they want peace.
Before they'll talk to the Afghan government, the Taliban want 5,000 of their members released from jail, a provision in the US Taliban agreement, a dialogue precondition rejected by Afghanistan's president on Monday.
Peace is a long process. It will not be possible to finish it within some months, but it will be a very tough negotiation and tough deal.
The Taliban insist they're not breaking the agreement signed in Doha, as coalition forces will not be targeted.
The U.S. state of California has declared a state of emergency after recording its first coronavirus death. Governor Gavin Newsom says the emergency proclamation would enable the state to shore up its communities and healthcare system in case the virus spreads more broadly. More than 150 cases have been reported in the U.S., 53 of which are in California. The state of Washington declared a state of emergency last month after it recorded its first coronavirus death. Many other U.S. cities and counties have also declared public health emergencies over the new coronavirus. California's declaration of a state of emergency on Wednesday would make it easier for the state to receive emergency federal funding to fight the COVID-19 outbreak. Coronavirus has killed more than 3,000 persons and infected more than 95,000 globally. There are 11 deaths and more than 160 cases in the U.S. Greece has stopped nearly 35,000 migrants that have tried to illegally cross into the country since last week when Turkey opened its border to Europe. Greece says it will deport hundreds of others who had managed to get through. Turkey had broken a 2016 deal it had with the European Union to hold migrants on its territory. It decided last week it would allow migrants to cross its border into Europe. Since then, hundreds of migrants have been able to get through to Greece by sea, to Lesbos and other islands. Greek Minister of Migration said on Wednesday migrants who illegally entered the country after March the 1st will be sent to the city of Serres in the north. From there, they will be deported to their countries. Still ahead, sports. Africa's top-ranked table tennis star, Aruna Kadri, out on injury for 3 weeks. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, Nigeria's top-rated table tennis player, Aruna Kadri, will be missing in action for 3 weeks as a result of a recurring thigh injury. He was forced to withdraw from the ongoing International Table Tennis Federation World Tour in Doha, Qatar. Prior to that, after examination in Lisbon, Portugal, it was noted that he had suffered another hamstring injury at a tournament in Tunisia last week. His withdrawal from the Qatar event denied him of the last ticket to the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Olympic 3,000-meter steeplechase champion Ruth Jebet has been handed a 4-year ban for doping. The Athletics Integrity Unit announced on Wednesday Jebet tested positive for banned blood booster EPO. She has a right to appeal the 4-year suspension. With this ban, the 23-year-old Kenyan-born athlete will be unable to defend her title at the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Too bad. And that's ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I'm Lucy Adeyemi. Have a pleasant evening.